All right, let's do Nitro.
Nitro number 132, also March 23rd. As noted, we were all bewildered and confused when Roddy Piper came out for a promo to open the show.
God, this guy.
Completely unannounced. There he is.
He's still, I guess, the commissioner or whatever the hell he was, because he makes a rule.
Was he?
Yeah, was he? Does anyone know what the hell the deal is with Roddy Piper? I thought he got fired or something.
He was making matches. Later on, Hogan was taking people out of matches and making things a handicap match. I don't know who's in charge.
Well,
they did explain.
That is the story on and off camera of this company.
I can explain some of this. Piper was the commissioner a while ago, but the NWO won a match at Fall Brawl, which gave them...
In 1996. Point that out.
Which gave them nebulous abilities to sometimes change matches.
You're such a worker.
No, that's what the storyline is. They fucking said that during this show. They didn't say nebulous, but...
It's a shame. It's a great word. So, Piper makes a rule. His rule is, no more on this professional wrestling show will there be any baseball bats. Gene says, that's great news. The fans all say, boo! I was so confused at this point. Then Piper says there's no bats until April 19th. Why? Because there's going to be a bat on a pole match between himself and Giant versus Nash and Hogan.
A fucking bat match.
So they're doing a bat match.
Start making your songs. Start making your songs now. Start making them now, kids.
And this is not an Adam West reference. They're doing a bat match, and Sting is not even in it.
Yeah.
What?
Not to mention, by the time the show was over, I'd seen 2 bats.
Yes. No one enforced Piper's no bat rule. So Piper talks about Savage. Says last time he was here, he was handcuffed to a cage, and Savage was beating him, and he's going to fight Savage tonight.
He made gay jokes about Hogan and Savage.
Yeah.
Wasn't so much. Well, I guess technically, but
yeah, he did.
It wasn't like a homophobic joke. He just asked, "Are you ex-lovers?"
Yeah.
Is that not a gay thing?
Well, I'll explain why. It's more making fun of why they're so angry at each other.
Is that a gay thing or a college?
Well, it's an extraordinarily gay thing.
I see.
But it's not anti-gay. There's nothing wrong with being ex-lovers if you do, but to explain why they're fighting so much.
I see.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure if he would have asked if they homophobic ex-lovers, that is a gay thing. It sounds about right. Yeah. So.
Chavo Guerrero versus Ultimo Dragon. He crammed a good 8-minute match into 3 minutes. Dragon
2 minutes. You gave it too much credit.
Makes my point even more.
2 minutes and 11 seconds, by the way.
Well, I was generous and
2
rounded
minutes,
up.
9 seconds. I'm all about the facts
We're
around this
very
show.
pedantic now. The point is, Dragon won a short match with a Dragon Sleeper. It was fun. Then it got better. Gene goes to interview Chavo and Eddie. Eddie's very disappointed in Chavo. Chavo has let down the entire family. Eddie turns to the camera, apologizes to all his brothers, then apologizes to his mom, and turns to Chavo and orders him, apologize to Grandma. Chavo didn't want to, but he's a man of his word, and he said he would do whatever Eddie said if he lost this match. So Chavo turns to the camera and says, Grandma, I'm sorry. And Eddie said, you said you would do whatever I told you, and I told you to win, and you lost. I'm going to show you how it's done later. I'm facing a Japanese wrestler, probably not as good as the one who beat you, or probably better than the one who beat you. I got it backwards. Probably better than the one who beat you. I'm going to show you how it's done. He left. This was awesome.
This is a great storyline, especially because it continues later in the show. We find out who the superior Japanese wrestler to Ultimo Guerrero is.
The way he said this, I was expecting Inoki.
You're supposed to.
Yeah. Hogan and Bischoff came out for a promo. The text on the back of Hogan's shirt, which he's been wearing for a while, but I didn't really read it until now. Yea, thou, I wrestle, that's what it said, in the Colosseums and arenas of champions, I fear no one because I know I am the man. If it wasn't for that grammar error in the second word, that shirt is awesome. So I was sitting there thinking how bored I am with Hulk Hogan promos when Larry said, I'm already bored. I can only imagine how many people turn the channel to Raw at this point. So
yeah,
Hogan,
to see those geeks on the stage with blow-up dolls.
And turned right back. So Hogan runs down.
There's a point in this promo quickly that Hogan says that Nash and I have the same blood running through our veins, and I'm thinking to myself, going, is that the reason why you have all the baby oil coming out of your pores? That's the only thing I could focus on when he was talking was how shiny this large man was. It was
He's incredibly.
He was very
he is
shiny.
glimmering.
Remember that show where he was so oiled up that people thought he was lactating?
Yes, this happened.
That's a lot of oil.
Yeah. So he had nothing to say. He ran down Piper and the Giant for a while, and it occurred to me at this point that if you count Randy Savage, who's kind of got a foot in both sides, but if you count Randy Savage, then Sting is now 4th on the babyface totem pole behind Piper, Giant, and Savage. There's more on this to come later in the show. Scott Steiner versus Wayne Bloom. First of all,
What a battle.
First of all, I just remember the comment last week. Someone mentioned Bloom's deadlifts, and Larry said with those legs.
Yeah, with those legs.
And I really looked at his legs. Are these the skinniest calves in proportion to the rest of his body you've ever
Very
seen on a
small.
man?
Very small.
Are they any wider than his ankles at all?
Absolutely not.
So Scott beat the hell out of him.
Well, maybe his thighs are so huge it makes his
I hadn't
calves
thought of that possibility.
look skinny.
Although that would
That's
not
why
explain
you're
why
such
his
a-
ankles are as skinny as his calves.
Good deadlifter. The deadlift isn't in your calves.
That's true.
Yeah. It's not, Craig.
I understand.
I
Brian.
say this, by the way, as a man who once purchased wrestling boots from Stagecoach, and I took my measurements and sent them in. They took the time to call me and double check that my calves really were that skinny. And I sheepishly said, yes, ma'am. So, Scott killed him. One with the middle rope Samoan drop and the Steiner recliner.
I got nothing to add.
Yeah.
Ryan? Moving on.
Was absolutely horrible in this match.
Which one?
The suplexes in general, just the way that he was just dropping them on his head on a few of them. The ring looked really, really stiff. I don't know if the WWE ring was different than the WWE ring, but it sure just looked like it hurt a few times and he got dropped on his head.
Well, when you have a madman dropping you on your head, I'm sure it looks bad no matter what.
There's no good answer to this.
Good point.
Lodi versus Psychosis. I cannot believe Psychosis trusted Lodi to catch him on a corkscrew dive to the floor.
Thank you. That's the only note I made.
Well, we got to talk about this. This is the beginning. Actually, it's probably not the beginning, but back in the day, you did a dive and your opponent caught you because you would do a dive and they would catch you. Then it later became you would just fucking fly in the air and land on the guy and hope that nobody died. That's what happened here. Psychosis just did a dive and landed right on Lodi's leg and broke the poor dude's ankle.
Did you really?
Yep, broke his ankle on
that
this
explains-
dive. Lodi didn't even try to catch him. He just broke his fall and
his
broke
foot?
his
With his
ankle.
ankle.
It was brutal.
So he should have just gotten more out of the way. Well, that explains what happened next, because Psychosis threw him into the ring, hit a gourd buster in the Tijuana Jam for the win. There you go.
Was this Lodi's first ever actual match on Nitro?
I think he had one.
He
more.
may have had
I want
one
to say
other.
he did,
Yeah.
but I can't prove it.
Man, oh man, what a career.
DDP versus Sting.
This was
He's
great.
not Kwee-Wee, by the way.
Yeah, we.
That was Vinny. That wasn't me.
Cleared that up on the board.
I'm happy that we. I'm happy actually that we corrected that. I don't mind being corrected when I'm wrong.
No.
Why would you?
DDP versus Sting.
This
had a
match was awesome.
Really awesome TV match.
This was better than The Rock and Steve Austin.
It was.
You know, it had really good heat for a babyface versus babyface.
Yeah.
But then Tony Schiavone actually oversold it by saying, these fans are standing on the edge of their chairs, and I'm looking at the TV, and I'm looking at the fans, and they're sitting there politely.
Well, Schiavone, we've hit the era. In fact, it's been a few weeks now where he's overhyping everything. Everything is the biggest match of all time.
Right.
Everything's the biggest crowd of all time. So yes, he's overshilling everything now.
Like I said, the heat was good, the crowd was good, but he just oversold it. Didn't need to.
Now, the way this was pushed throughout the show up to this point, you could argue that Paige is also on the list of babyfaces higher than Sting on the totem pole. You were not tuning in if you watch these men talk. They didn't tell you tune in to see Sting defend the world title. They said tune in to watch Paige challenge for it. So they had a very good match. They teased finishers early. The fans believed the match could end at any time. Went, 12, 15 minutes. They built throughout. Intensity throughout, even though it was two babyfaces. And finally, Paige goes for the cutter out of the corner, but Sting grabs the ropes to block. And that leaves Sting in perfect position to grab Paige by the head, hit the reverse DDT for the win.
And then the fans lost their ever-loving minds.
Oh, yes.
It was awesome.
It was great.
I'm I'm really confused, though, guys. Like, there weren't 50 kickouts, so how is this a title match? One finisher and that's it, really?
It is funny you mentioned that, because when he hit that move and went for the cover, you see, we all have two halves of our brain. Are you aware of that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm watching it, and one half of my brain thought, well, obviously he's going to kick out.
Obviously.
But then the other half of my brain remembered it was 98, and I didn't expect him to kick out, and he didn't.
And then you were surprised.
I was kind of surprised.
Because I was too.
I was like, man, he hit a finisher and won. That's baffling. Now, here's another thing. I know people have said this a million times over the years, but it bears repeating with this match. When Diamond Dallas Page, he would always send scripts to his opponents for his matches. And there were a lot of people that thought, this damn Diamond Dallas Page doesn't know how to work. He can't call it in the ring. He's got to script out his matches. This is a great example of who the fuck cares how you put this goddamn match together.
It's true.
This was the best match Sting had since when?
96.
Like the last time
Since
he had
Bash of the Beach.
Yeah, probably. This match was awesome. And if you recall, like in a year or so, Sting has another match with DDP where I think DDP beat Sting for the title. That's like an awesome match. And then they rematch later in the show, and I think DDP wins it back or something like that. But, man, DDP got such a great match out of Sting. And Sting had not been having good matches lately.
Nope. So Sting helps Page up to his feet, salutes him with a diamond cutter sign. All is right with the world. We got some very embarrassing Nitro party clips. Guys wearing masks and doing themed menus and these Nitro parties. When I was a kid, they seemed like what me and my friends were doing, and I look back now and I think, I pray to God my friends were not doing this. Probably were.
Vinny's not mentioning he's wearing a mask right now as he does the show.
I always wear a mask on the show.
He's the gimp this week.
Well, it is in fact a mask to hide my identity because I am so embarrassed. Craig, how dare you?
What?
Nothing. Lex Luger versus Rick Fuller.
Rick Fuller.
Haven't we had this conversation about Fuller before?
Yeah, he's alive.
He's huge. He's not bad. In fact, he may have been better than Lex in this match.
That's fair.
Why?
Sorry.
Brian mutes everyone when he coughs. How did Rick Fuller never get more opportunities than he had?
I don't know.
I don't know if he did any good as a legit star, but all we ever see him as a TV jobber.
Maybe he was terrible and Luger carried him to a very good match.
I hadn't thought of that.
No. It didn't happen.
Well, no. So he's huge. He's beating Lex up the entire time. Actually, it occurred to me here. You know who Rick Fuller is? He's Braun Strowman's dad. They have a lot in common.
Kinda,
Okay.
yeah.
I was thinking he would
Way
fit in-
better.
The one
I was
thing
thinking he
that
would
they're
fit in well
selling
with.
through this entire match is that Rick Fuller is 400 pounds. And he's a big guy. Now, just a little background. I'm 6'8" and about 315. And I'm looking at Rick Fuller going, that guy's not 400 pounds because he's just amazingly agile for a guy that size. I mean, I'm a big guy, but watching this guy going, what he was doing and all the move sets and things like that, he was fantastic. I mean, as much as he was only in there for a couple of minutes, but for a big guy, it was pretty impressive.
May I clear up the fact that you just said you are 6'8"?
Yeah, 6'8". Vinny and Craig officially would be the smaller of the two men in the room. I would be the biggest guy in the room, yes.
I'll fly you up here.
I'm 6'2", you're 6'3", Vinny?
Are you taller than me?
Maybe, am I?
I think you're taller than me.
Oh,
I think I'm
okay.
about 6'1" these days.
Never mind.
6'8".
Yeah, he's big.
Yeah.
He's 14 inches taller than me.
That's
Yeah,
all.
Dude.
I'd have guessed more. I'm not doing the math.
Actually, he's 6'8". He's 13 inches taller.
That's the difference between me and my wife, by the way.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
God, put the three of you together.
How
Right?
are you? How are you
No.
at the buffets?
It'd be... I just had to think about that. It doesn't work.
I don't know what's happening.
It had to be...
I think this just got uncomfortable.
Don't ask me to think about numbers.
Yeah.
All right, where
Oh, I
were we?
never will. So anyway,
Actually, yeah, Ryan, how are you at the buffets?
I'm not a huge fan. I try to keep it down as much as I possibly can. I'm trying to get down under $3 because I keep on hearing you and Vinny have the weight conversation. So I'm thinking to myself, going, okay, I gotta stick to it. Try to do my best.
Well, the difference
if
is...
you're not on TV as a wrestler, you can be as fat as you want.
Well, it's not that. It's like Vinny's only 6'2". So you are 6 inches taller than Vinny,
Yeah.
and he may weigh
That's
315
true.
right now.
I'm not on TV, but I could have been a jobber back in the 80s because anybody with any type of body could have been on those programs for sure.
Dude, at 6'8" and 315 pounds, you would have been a megastar.
A black Bart at the very least.
Yeah.
So Fuller takes the whole match. Then Lex hits a couple of clotheslines, hits the bionic elbow. He signals for the rack. The place goes absolutely insane. And then, with ease, he gets this big fucker up in the torture rack, and everyone just loses their minds, and Lex wins.
I don't know if I would
ease.
say ease.
Yeah.
He had a rough time getting this guy up.
Really?
He got him
Yeah.
up on the right when he was lifting him up initially, but when his weight transferred over, there was a little scary moment there where I thought he was going to dump him on his head.
See, there was a delay. Yes, you're right. It took him a few seconds to get his left arm over the man's head, but I didn't see any wobble in there. I think he could have held that guy up for a long time. Just with the one arm. It's actually more impressive that way.
It's true.
Yeah, there was a part there where Rick Fuller grabbed Lex underneath his chin and tried to position himself so he wouldn't fall flat on his head. So
You're going with me
it
if
was
I
pretty
go over.
scary for a minute there, especially with a guy that size.
Dude, I can't get over that. Ryan's 6'8".
Did you not know people got that big?
No, I didn't. I've never met someone 6'8".
What?
I don't think so.
It's the Canadian water, Brian. I'm just north of you in Vancouver, so.
Well, that didn't do me a damn bit of
Canadian
good.
Water.
How tall was Avalanche? Was he like
He ain't
6'4".
6'8". He's probably 6'4", 6'5".
Okay.
He's 6'4".
Dude, 4 inches taller than the Avalanche?
Yeah.
I miss the old
I need to hire
Avalanche.
this guy. He's got size. Need that for a podcast.
Yeah.
It's very important for
Yeah.
good audio.
It's a wrestling podcast. It's got to have size.
It's just what we need in here. More heat.
I just had this vision of Brian on a ladder for hours adjusting a microphone at the right height.
I'm trying to imagine if Ryan were sitting in that chair right there and Whitney came in and just took a photo of the four of us.
It would look like those Russian nesting dolls.
It would.
It looked like 3 men and a baby.
Hey. Can we continue?
Can I be Tom Selleck?
Sure.
Okay. He was in that, right?
Let's talk about Eddie Guerrero and Kaz Hayashi.
Eddie Guerrero wrestled not Antonio Inoki. It was Kaz Hayashi.
Let me start.
Ultimo Guerrero's young boy.
Let me start. Chavo comes out wearing the My Favorite Wrestler is Eddie Guerrero. Eddie summons him up onto the apron to hold the ropes for him. Chavo sits on the second rope and holds the top rope open. Eddie gets up on the apron and then vaults over the top rope.
Because Eddie was awesome.
I died.
Eddie is the best.
Let me tell you how great Eddie is. There's a spot in this match that Mike Tenay had never seen before. I don't recall ever seeing this before, even though I probably saw it live. Fucking Kazuyashi's on the top rope. And I guess he was trying a drop kick.
Yes.
And he leaps in the air, and he throws his legs out, and Eddie Guerrero responds by dropping to a knee, and Hayashi falls from high in the air and lands on his knee. He didn't catch him and give him a backbreaker.
No.
He just kneeled and left his knee there for the man to fly onto. That was the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life.
There's also another spot where Kaz came off the top rope with a moonsault, and Eddie timed it perfectly to drop kick him as he was in rotation.
That's right. And then Kazuyashi did a big dive to the outside, and they all nearly killed themselves. They smashed into the barricade in a very uncomfortable manner.
Who was the guy in ROH who unfortunately just suffered a broken leg?
TK O'Ryan.
Yeah, TK O'Ryan.
It's exactly what happened. He flew through the air, crashed both legs in the barricade, and I screamed.
Well, he didn't break his fibia and his tibia. That's both of them.
That sucks.
Yeah, it sucks bad.
So Eddie destroyed this guy for a while. Finally finished him off with a superplex and a frog splash.
I loved it.
So Ultimo Dragon comes out to check on Kaz. And he enters the ring, and Eddie is between him and Kaz. So Dragon just walks forward. Eddie not only doesn't get out of the way, but he shoulder checks Dragon as Dragon passes by. Dragon ignores this. He's a more important fish to fry. But Eddie is still pissed off, so he takes his wrath out on Chavo for not making Dragon walk around him. And he slaps Chavo, orders him to hold the ropes open so he leaves the ring. Had a Bret Hart video package. Yet another guy you could argue higher on the totem pole than Sting.
These vignettes that WCW puts on are so junior high compared to WWF.
Yes. There was like one good one, and I forget what it was now. But yeah, the WCW video packages, and I say it every time, they're owned by Turner Broadcasting.
Right.
You have a multi-billion-dollar media conglomerate, and this is the best you can do. It was not very good.
Speaking of not very good,
we had Conan video package, which is not very good, and then we had a Conan match that was not very good.
this is the worst match I ever saw. This was
Excuse me?
horrendous.
This was a pretty bad
Are you
match,
granny
but
now?
This was horrible, Vinny.
I'm not
He's going
defending
to
it.
give it a 1.
It's very, very boring. They clarified Piper's ruling earlier, where he said bats would be illegal until April 19th. Shouldn't they be illegal all the time?
On 420, though, game on.
I guess so. So Conan beat him up forever, used a very wacky lucha submission. It was very boring. And finally, Conan tries the cradle DDT, but Ayakea hits a Northern Light suplex for the win, and I think literally the only offense he got in the entire match. Craig, would you like to see more?
This sucked.
Ryan, was this the worst match you've ever seen in your life?
This is, it was pretty terrible.
That's two people. I
one
thought
thing
it was the
noticed
worst.
Conan looked absolutely monstrous compared to Prince Ayakea. Is Prince Ayakea that small? Because
Yes.
the size discrepancy was massive, it seemed, but it was pretty terrible. I didn't understand. You get the crap kicked out of him the whole match and Northern Light suplex, and that's it. Oh, okay, I guess.
You need to go back and watch Ayakea versus Regal. Ayakea looks like a Smurf. Chris Jericho came out for a promo. He
That was me.
cheered on the local sports ball team's upcoming rival, and then Lenny Lane interrupted.
It's like a mirror.
Man, it's a famous interview right
It's one of those just random throwaway lines that takes on a life of its own, and everyone knows the joke 20 years later. So apparently at the pay-per-view, they had done a scam where Lenny had disguised himself as Jericho to fool Dean Malenko and save the title.
Right.
So Lenny says, Chris Jericho, I helped you screw Dean Malenko. You owe me $1,000. Jericho says, I don't know what you're talking about. You're the one who went through my bag. You stole my gear, and you stole my Loverboy tape. And it's one of those things you're watching and you think, haha, that's funny. And you move on, but it lives forever. It's like one of the most famous things Jericho ever did with his Loverboy tape line.
Just see Lenny Lane cruising in his car listening to Everybody's Working for the Weekend.
You want to be in the show? Da-na-na-na-na-na. So Jericho says
I hate you guys.
Lenny owes him $1,000 for ruining his gear. He demands it right now. And it's one of those things, the only people who are still active 20 years later are Jericho, Big Show, and Kane's still around on SmackDown, isn't he?
Occasionally, yes.
I have not seen him much.
Sometimes.
But you watch Jericho in 1998 when he says, Lenny Lane, you owe me $1,000, and I demand it. You expect him to go, it! He didn't do it. I was wondering what was wrong with him. So Lenny slaps him, and they had a match.
Now, the big line was, I want you to give it to me. And Lenny says, you want me to give it to you? And Jericho's screaming, give it to me! And so he slaps him. You could see it coming a mile away, but it was awesome.
So Lenny Lane, a horrible wrestler, for the record, does the skull-crushing finale better than Miz. He had a fun 2-minute match, and Jericho won with a Boston Crab. Hulk Hogan and Kevin Nash versus Giant.
This stupid thing. This is where they explain that the NWO has turned this singles match into a handicap match as a result of a win they had at Fall Brawl 1996.
Okay, was it originally a singles match or a tag?
No, it was originally a battle of giants. It was supposed to be Giant versus Nash,
They added Hogan.
right?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking.
I thought it was. I could have sworn it was a singles match.
I thought it was originally a tag match, and they turned to a singles. And again, I'd love to be corrected if I'm wrong. It doesn't really matter. It was what it was. So,
And Vinny, just really quickly before you get going on that this match with the referee. The referee is the size of my right leg in this match, and it scared the hell out of me watching this tiny little guy try and get between these massive giants, going, "Please don't squish him. He's going to die. Please don't hurt him."
Well, you know, back in the day, the idea was you got to get a small referee so the wrestlers looked bigger. So it was always weird years later when John McCarthy would referee these fights between 125-pound men. And I was like, you fuckers don't know how to book this shit. You have this giant referee in there with these tiny men.
For the record, I looked at my notes, and it was supposed to be Giant versus Nash.
See?
Thank you. You're correcting me. I appreciate
Turned
that.
it into a handicap match because of that fall brawl win.
But there is a reason that Bill Alfonso always ref Giant Gonzalez's matches. There's actually many reasons, but one of them is he's short. All right, so they're doing this match, and it's Hogan versus Giant for 5 minutes, and it's every Hogan Giant thing you ever saw.
No, it's worse. This was so horrible. Hulk Hogan versus the Giant. It was a new level of horrible. This was a 1. This was worse than Conan and Ikea, Craig. When the Giant and Hulk Hogan were in together. Fucking horrible.
What did you think of the 1 minute Nash and Giant were in the ring?
Better!
See, okay, I'm happy you
I
said
couldn't
that.
believe my eyes.
We have a large man on the phone, and so I say this as a compliment to you. It's just cool watching Giants fight.
It's true.
It is.
And sometimes Nash gets in there, and you can't call what he does fighting, but Nash gave it his all for the 60 seconds he was in there. And just watching these big Kong and Godzilla wail on each other and run across the ring and slam into each other, it's just cool.
Dude, when you have guys, like big guys that are bad, and then you have little guys like Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, all of these guys, then you're begging to see the little guys. You're bored with the big guys. But all things being equal, fans love to see giant dudes going at it. To this day. Why the hell do you think Goldberg and Brock Lesnar is at WrestleMania this year and people aren't booing Goldberg yet?
Yeah, the talent level, like these days, with the big guys, the Strowmans and the Roman Reigns, and these guys, like, far outweigh anything that you've seen in '98. Because this match is just horrendous.
This
Like,
match was
I was
hideous.
checking to make sure the network wasn't buffering. It was going so slow. So.
Yeah, think about this. You had, like, Eddie Guerrero on this show, and Chris Benoit on this show, and Booker T, and
Ultimo Dragon.
You compare that to these giants. But now let's fast forward to 2017, where all of the big guys, I mean, even Strowman's getting decent. Like, the big guys are good, and you look at the cruiserweights, and they tell the cruiserweights to stop doing all of their good shit and wrestle like heavyweights. So, of course, people are going to rather see the big guys.
So, Giant runs wild on them. He's about to kill them all, and Disciple attacks the DQ.
This guy.
He goes for the stunner. And he grabs... This is awesome. He grabs Giant's head, and he sticks both legs straight out in front of him, and Giant just doesn't go down, so Beefcake's hanging in the air. That was awesome. I will not hear you denigrate that spot.
No, I won't. That was great. That was the best thing Brutus Beefcake did in his whole career.
So, Bischoff kicks Giant in the back, and Giant chokeslams him, and the NWO runs for their lives, and that's that. I didn't hate this nearly as much as Brian did. Or Ryan, for that matter.
I didn't hate it. I just thought it was fucking terrible.
Oh, that's totally different.
It is different.
Watching Bischoff bounce his head off the mat after getting chokeslammed was... I had to rewind it a second time. Man, he didn't tuck his chin very good because his head just bounced off the mat like a basketball.
Dude,
it's kind of scary.
It's not only that. I'm glad you mentioned that. So, as everybody's well aware, the apron's the hardest part of the ring.
Absolutely.
Eric Bischoff is not a trained wrestler.
That was
The
clear.
Giant had to chokeslam Eric Bischoff. You're telling me the Giant didn't know to deposit this guy in the middle of the ring? He lifted this guy up, and he took a giant leap, and he threw him, so he landed right on the fucking apron. I was like, I don't know what Bischoff did to piss off the Big Show this week, but
Glad
he
he
did
did.
something. Giant got a receipt.
And I hear that Eric's inducting
DDP.
DDP.
Yeah.
It's funny because you had a question about
We did.
Eric in the
Will
Hall
he
of
ever
Fame.
be in the Hall of Fame? Of course he will
and
someday.
Dave lost his ever-loving mind about
Well,
it.
it's a stupid question. Vinny will be in the Hall of Fame someday.
All right.
Who will induct me?
Brian.
I'll do it.
Cool. Thanks, Ryan.
Stoney Edwards.
That deal. I agree. Chris Benoit versus Booker T. Tony Schiavone is trying to explain that Chris Benoit is a no-nonsense wrestler.
Yeah.
The exact words he used were, "This man does not wear a flowery jacket." And suddenly, I really bad wanted to see Chris Benoit in a flowery jacket. So this was not, by a long shot, the best of the Booker T. Chris Benoit matches. God, it was good.
It's very good. It's very good, this 7-minute, 10-minute draw.
5:38.
Yes. Is that all it was?
Yeah.
They can't do anything right, this
Oh,
company.
it's 7:35 with commercials.
Fine.
Yeah.
So
The clock keeps running when that commercial comes on,
I
you
understand,
jackass.
Brian.
they're doing this great match, and Benoit takes the biggest flapjack of all time, and they're trading strikes, and it's great, and the bell rings at random, and I immediately knew, oh, it's a time limit draw. I didn't know how much time had elapsed. I didn't know what the time limit was, but when the bell rings for no reason, I can assume it's a time limit draw.
Wait, did you say 5:38?
Yeah, I was looking at
That's
the wrong
next
thing.
match.
7:34.
Thank you.
I apologize.
The announcers had no idea what might have happened. Why is the match over? Why did the bell ring?
I was thinking the same thing. You never see this. You
Well,
never see this. And
so-
it's a great finish.
Yeah. So Booker took his belt, celebrated like he had won, and if you think about it, he had. Kurt Hennig versus Davey Boy Smith.
Poor Davey boy.
Dude, who wants to talk about Davey Boy? Let's talk about Ravishing Rick Rude.
I was going to say this is
Okay.
the best opponent Davey Boy's had since getting in this company.
That's
well,
what
it
I'm saying.
was, but Rick Rude. First off, Rick Rude's doing commentary, and Bobby's gushing all over him. Is quite the bromance before such a term existed. And Rude goes down. Rick Rude is just my favorite wrestler. Like,
And he's not even wrestling.
that one NWO Nitro where he was doing commentary, like, you go back and read The Observer, and Dave thought Rude was just terrible on commentary. And it's like, boy, does that tell you how commentary has fallen in the last 19 years. This guy was great! And what a badass.
So much I loved about this match. You had, before the match began, Hennig tried to intimidate Davey Boy by flexing a bicep. And Davey Boy responded by squinting and holding his hand over his eyes, trying to see this tiny little arm off in the distance. You had Rude claiming that not only were he and Kurt Hennig lifelong friends, but in fact their fathers were dear friends, Larry Hennig and Dick Rude.
That's
Dick
true.
Rude.
That's awesome.
Everything about that is true.
Then Davey Boy used a cartwheel to avoid a move, and Rude scolded him and said, if you want to do that, go join the circus. Rude was the best here.
He was so awesome.
So as soon as things start to go Davey Boy's way, Rude makes his way down to ringside. Davey Boy tries the power slam. He hurts
near death.
Kurt Hennig up on top of his shoulders. And Rude grabs Davey Boy's leg to block it. But Davey, with Kurt Hennig on his shoulders, raises his other leg, stomps on Rude's arm, and hits the power slam anyway. That was awesome. Then he goes after Rude. Rude handcuffs him to the ropes. It's a DQ, which should be. And they start beating him up forever until Brett runs out to make the save. On the list of reasons to love Rick Rude, ain't no one before, ain't nobody since sold an atomic drop any better.
oh, I don't know.
That's pretty good, though.
We were just talking about that one on the...
This is better than Bill Tab. I promise
know.
you.
He popped up. He buckled his knees together.
He buckles his knees together. He arches his back. He holds his arms like chicken wings and has the most pained expression on his face.
So you're telling it's like somebody walked up behind you and jammed something up your ass, Vinny?
Wow.
Is that what you're saying?
Again, Brian has made the show uncomfortable. Craig is looking at me in deep distress.
How red he is.
Anyway,
Hold on.
Vinny's purple right now.
How can you... Where is your gauge? How did you come up with this?
Well, I'm just saying the most uncomfortable thing that could happen that would make you do that.
I see.
Yeah.
So
Yes?
so to know this pain,
Well, I don't know this pain. I'm imagining it.
I see.
Hello. Never mind.
every once in a while,
Killed Vince.
Brian will do a callback to a show Craig was not on, and Craig has no idea what's going on. And this is one of them. Yes, this is now 2 shows in a row, Craig, where Brian has brought up the subject of things being jammed in your ass unaware.
Huh? That's rape.
So, Brett puts Hennig in the sharpshooter. B team runs out to attack him. Brett fights them all off by himself, just with a punch. Just that one right hand, he knocks them all out. And they unlock Davey Boy from the handcuffs. And Brett cuts a promo, says, I'm tired of seeing people get screwed. As long as I'm in the building, nobody's going to go through what I did. They showed a clip from Thunder, where the NWO was attacking Rick Steiner until Goldberg made the save, spearing the snot out of everybody. And it was the first time, really, that Goldberg has been on TV and doing well for a while, but the first time he's really stuck his nose in anyone's business. Otherwise, he's just kept to himself.
You know, it's already March, and Thunder is now like 3 months old. And if you recall, when Thunder first debuted, the following Monday, like half the show was recaps of what happened on Thunder. Now you may get one clip. It's already like
Off the radar.
a D show.
Renegade versus Goldberg.
Poor Renegade.
Have we mentioned that Renegade was using Mark Meadows' music?
You always mention that, and I never noticed.
I always forget that I've mentioned it before. So,
Did you notice what Renegade was wearing? His trunks and the inappropriate tassels that were attached to adorned his front and back. It was just something you'd see in like a biker rally or something.
his trunks
Some
did
S&M
seem...
club somewhere. I'm going.
His trunks were a little small, and he covered them with fringe, including metal fringe. So when Goldberg speared him, Goldberg tore his own face open.
Is that what it was?
That's what happened.
Yes.
I was wondering, what the
That's what
hell is
happened.
the metal on this guy's trousers for?
I thought he busted open his eye when they locked up or when Goldberg was throwing the headbutt.
I am pretty sure it was the spear, because it happened right before the finish, and it was the spear and jackhammer finish, spoiler, and Goldberg pops up and suddenly his face is just covered in blood.
They also went out of their way to make sure that you noticed that Goldberg is 59-0.
No, he's 16-0 after this
after
match.
the match.
16-0 after
that's
the
right.
match. I
I
apologize.
believe that's the first time they put a number on it.
Right.
Randy Savage versus Roddy Piper. The following comment I'm about to make, you could probably make it about just about any Nitro or Raw in this era, but it really hit me like a hammer just how many people on the show are no longer with us.
Oh, yeah.
I counted 10.
Oh!
And we have 3 in this match alone, Piper, Savage, and Liz. So they're brawling everywhere. Piper goes for a pile driver on the cement. Liz breaks it up by raking his back. And
Oh,
we had just
my
talked about
Lord.
Ronnie Garvin raking the back on Sunday. Liz took 4 sharp fingernails, dug into Piper's flesh like she was trying to climb a mountain, and just raked his back off.
Dude, she goes up behind this guy, and she does the back rake, and like immediately you see 8 lines down the guy's back.
Yes.
And I thought, okay, maybe the guy just got done tanning. He's a little burned, and that's just like, you know, when you rake, when you like, if you got a burn and you push on it and you move your finger, it's gonna be white.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe that's what it is. No, it was there for the rest of the match. She back raked Roddy Piper.
Yeah.
And she rakes his back and runs off, and Roddy dead stop. Like he just stops, and then he just starts to turn around like, what in the fuck did you just do to me? I couldn't believe my
This is
eyes.
a spot though that they would have. This is a spot they would have planned, right? This is something that she wouldn't have just hauled off and done.
Well-
Because,
Well, I think
I looked at it and went, that just looks so freaking horrible when she did it. It just looked painful beyond belief. But I'm guessing he knew it was coming.
Well, I mean, I'm sure he knew they were going to do like a fake back rake.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he was expecting her to really rake his back with her fingernails.
So
And if he did, he's out of his mind.
he responded by
Well-
forcibly kissing her. He is out of his mind, yes. Match goes on for a while. Liz gets knocked off the apron. The ref starts to check her. The ref stops to check on Liz. Piper and Savage do a double down. Hogan comes out, takes out the ref, and Hogan and Nash get in the ring with a baseball bat. Nash has the bat. Hogan says, "Hey Kev, use that baseball bat and hit Randy Savage." Nash says, "I'll hit Roddy Piper instead." Hogan is outraged. He yanks the bat out of Nash's hands, and they begin to bicker. Sting shows up with a bat, and they both back away. Savage jumps Sting from behind. There's insanity everywhere. Eventually, Giant comes out. He takes all the bats away. The NWO runs for their lives. Savage is still trying to get at the NWO dudes. And usually, to this day, in fact, but especially in the Monday Night Wars era, they always end with chaos and confusion and the stuff going on as the show ends. This time, everything ended. They had like a minute to show replays. The announcers reflected on this. They thanked us for joining and said, "We'll see you next week," which was nice.
Yeah, it was
was
a nice
better.
change of pace.
It was much better.
There were an awful lot of bats in this match right here on a show where bats were banned by Roddy Piper, who was in the match with all the bats. Can't believe this.
That happened.
Ryan, were you a WCW guy or a WWE guy?
WWE guy.
It sounds like everybody, except for a brief period of time. Who are your favorites?
WWE, absolutely Undertaker, and probably after that, go into the mainstream ones of The Rock and Steve Austin, but I was an Undertaker guy through and through. And really, I mean, when you look back on it from 2017 to now, it's night and day. And I know this is beating like a dead horse about how the product was, just so popular back then. I just don't see how they're going to get back to those heights anytime soon. But the WWE product I found to be much more appealing than the WCW product back in the day, for sure.
What'd you make of Vinny bearing the Undertaker's promo here tonight?
Hey, he deserved it. I thought it's just terrible. I'm looking at the ceiling in the
I'm the spirit animal.
Yes,
Like,
you
slam me.
are.
So,
Man, he is your spirit animal. You're right. Man, oh man. Well, Ryan, let's get some plugs in here for today.
There's nothing personally on my end. I just to say, I appreciate the opportunity, Brian. Keep doing what you're doing. You'll have a subscriber for life. Vinny and Craig, appreciate all your hard work, and I look forward to the shows on a daily basis. And keep going, guys. You guys have been absolutely fantastic. It's been a really big thrill, and I appreciate you guys' time a heck of a lot.
Well, let's play a song for Ryan here. This is from John, Meltzer Driver.
I know what this is.
Yes,
They
I
were
did.
telling me about this.
What is this?
This is the Meltzer Driver.
This is what Dave Meltzer wants. Meltzer Driver!
This is all legal.
I'm roguish, the type of dude to clone your bitch, then choke her while I'm cutting off both her tits. It's over when the focus is the focal end. You're bogus. If you hold a pin to go against me, you'd need the vocal pitch of Hova mixed with stolen snippets.
What's
from
going
the
on?
Scripture. I'm so malicious between you and me. The tone is dipped in the most prolific quotes from potent visions I've had from dropping 2 CE. The crew is mean, the motto's simple.
Sounds
Kill
like Matt
rappers,
Farmer.
Consume, repeat, a group of freaks. and
Matt has much more soul than this.
substance-abusing fiends whose IQs and feats rival Newton's genes who stoop to being a few MCs. Stupid.
What does that have to do with the Meltzer Driver?
Resin Vinny, though. Lay the smackdown here,
I'm
not
so
brawl, that's
confused.
just Vince's show. A vicious flow, to be blunt, I'm just getting stoned. Listen, bro, I'll grab my pencil and I'll slit your throat. Meltzer Driver. Meltzer
Okay.
Driver.
I'm sure the guy who
Meltzer
made this meant well.
Driver.
Have you ever been less intimidated by a guy trying to threaten you?
No.
Meltzer Driver.
Maybe he's supposed to be Dave.
Ah, I see.
Is that what it is?
I hadn't thought of that. That would make sense then. Dave's
Yeah,
very
there
friendly.
you go. Oh man, how'd you like that, Ryan? What a song.
Yeah. Everything was fine
It
until
was
you played that.
absolutely inspiring. Thank you very much. I still don't know what the hell that has anything to do with the Meltzer Driver.
All right, everybody. Well, we're going to wrap it up. Want to thank Ryan for co-hosting here today.
Yeah, Ryan.
And
Thanks for not being Ryan from Cumberland.
that's right.
Appreciate that.
You're a far superior Ryan to Ryan from Cumberland. Fine job here today. And we'll be back on Thursday with the Brian and Vinny show. Granny will be here joining us. We'll talk about what do we do? NXT?
Whatever.
Starcade?
Figure it out.
I already forgot. We'll do all that. So thanks again, everybody. We'll talk to you again after a while.
Good night.
Adios.
Ooh, international flavor.